forget how to work it. He started the recording committee, so I don't. My name is Mathew. I'm an alcoholic. There's a lot more people than I thought there was. I was just saying, there was a speaker that I've heard one time said that whenever he picks up his chip, he gets up and he says, I was going to talk about humility, but there's not enough people here. I made that joke, and now there's too many people. I'm glad to be here at a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. Glad to be at this meeting in particular. I have a home group. It's a primary purpose group. Meet at the First Baptist Church in Southern Pines. If you don't know where that is, you're probably in the right place. And we're going to give out some chips later, and you might want to consider picking one up. I've got a sobriety date, and it's December 29th of 2011. So next month, God willing, I'll pick up 3 years of continuous sobriety from all mood-altering substances, including marijuana. I wouldn't suggest smoking weed if you come in, but it really takes the edge off of getting sober. My story starts off pretty much the same way everybody else's starts off. I was born to a good family, and I know that not everybody can say that, but I was. And two loving parents. I'm the oldest of four kids. Really grew up with pretty much everything we wanted, all of what we needed and most of what we wanted. I mean, we weren't spoiled by any stretch of the imagination, probably upper middle class. And, from all intents and purposes, looking from the outside in, you probably would have thought that I was a guy that had his life together, had everything, had a good head on my shoulders, had a good family. But if you could look and see what I was like on the inside, you'd see anything but that. On the inside, I felt like I was coming apart at the seams as far back as I can remember. I always remember being filled with fear and regret and anxiety. I felt like I couldn't let go of the past, and neither could the people around me. I felt like I could remember every single little thing that I'd ever done to anybody, and they could remember it too. And I just remember being consumed with that all the time. And that's not to say that I didn't have fun as a kid or didn't have a good childhood, because I felt like I did, and I did have fun. But that was always there, and I don't remember ever a time where I didn't feel that way. I've had the privilege of being able to go to Detox a lot, Carrie meeting up there. I went to Detox a lot without Carrie meeting up there too, but been privileged on the other side of that, and to go up to the Colony with some great guys. And Dave is one of the guys I go up with, and he talks about being a late bloomer. When did you start drinking? 16? 17, and a late bloomer at 17. I didn't take my first drink until I was 21, so I guess I was even later than that. But that's kind of, it leads you to a false impression. I started with pills in high school, and the big book talks about pill usage. Bill talks about that the real alcoholic finds himself using pills, sedatives and gin the next morning when he wakes up, and that was my story. But I started with pills, and it was whatever I could steal. I didn't have a preference, just whatever I could get a hold of that I could swallow and feel different, and that was what it was all about. It was about feeling different. It never made me feel good or happy or giddy. I never got a hold of any of that stuff. It just made me feel different. I felt like I could take this pill and have some kind of control, and I could feel different than the way I always felt. I didn't have to feel that anxiety and that nervousness and that pressure. I made it through high school without too much trouble. Got into a couple of fights. That was about it. And I got the privilege to graduate and go off to a good school. And it proceeded to royally mess that up as best as I could. I got up to school, and I was 17, so I was about a year younger than most of the other people up there, and it felt like it was the same way it was all in high school and before. I felt like everybody's roommates were pairing off. They were all becoming best friends, buddy, and I hated my roommate. I hated him with a burning passion. He was an alcoholic. We'd be studying, and we'd be like dead quiet studying, and all of a sudden you hear. He'd be cracking a beer over there studying. I'd be so angry at him, just hating him. I don't know why. But I'd be in my side of the room, just high as I could be. But judging him for drinking a beer while he's studying. My freshman year, I did not adjust well. I didn't cope well, and it got to the point where I didn't leave my room for days at a time, except just to go to the bathroom. I wasn't eating. I got down to, I was eating out of the vending machines, actually. It was Pop-Tarts and Mountain Dew. And that was pretty much all I ate. And I got down to about 130 pounds and was just sick. And it got to the point where I was waking up and taking pills and taking them throughout the day and then taking them at night. I'd take uppers in the morning to wake up, downers at night to try to go to sleep, and it was just a continuous cycle. I'd wake up and do it all again the next day. And every day I'd wake up and my back would hurt and my sides would hurt, and I'd go into the bathroom and look in the mirrors and just wait and see if today was the day that, my eyes were yellow or that was my kidneys were boxed and my backside was bruised. And every day I woke up and that walk to the bathroom, I'd like, today's going to be different. I'm not going to do this again today. And it's not tomorrow. Yesterday was the last day I'm going to do that. And when I go into the bathroom and see that it wasn't the case, I'd be like, well, maybe it wasn't as bad as I thought it was. Maybe today will be a little bit different. And I did that for a long time, and ended up coming home from school and did that for the next 3 years, just using my parents left and right as much as I could. I can't blame my alcoholism or anything about my life on my childhood. I had an excellent childhood and excellent parents and a wonderful, loving family, and I used them and abused them every chance I got. And all they did was love me for it. And I always had a way out. I don't think my parents enabled me, but I always had a safe place to go. If things got too bad at school, I could always come home. If things got too bad, with the friends or the girlfriend, I could always come back home. I always had my family. And my junior year, I turned 21. It was not really my junior year, if you can count. That was 4 years after my freshman year, which should not be your junior year. I was a little delayed in my studies. I'm actually older than most of my TAs currently at school right now, which is interesting. Started 7 years ago. I'll graduate eventually for an undergrad degree. My junior year, I turned 21, and a friend of mine called me up on my birthday. I remember it like it was yesterday. It was a Wednesday, and it was like 5 in the afternoon. She called me up and wanted to know what I was doing for my birthday, and I said, nothing, I'm not doing anything. And she said, do you want to go out to eat? I said, I'd love to. And she was about my only friend at this point. And she was codependent to the extreme. We didn't date, but it was sick. She was she wanted to be a nurse, and she became a nurse, and she took care of me all the time, and I let her do it. And I had my first drink with her. We went out to eat, and we're eating at this Italian restaurant. I still remember where it is, and we were in there. It was like 5:30 at this point, and nobody's in there. It's a Wednesday, and I'm eating chicken parmesan. It was like chicken fingers with ketchup and cheese. It was awful. But and she's talking about something, just yapping, and in the back of my mind, I don't know why, but the thought came up that it'd be fun to go get a drink, and. Never had a drink before in my life. Well, that's a lie. I had a sip of rum before, and it tasted like rubbing alcohol, so I didn't drink it. We were trying to cook steaks on the grill, and we didn't have lighter fluid. So me being the chemist, that's my major is chemistry, I tried to make lighter fluid with my roommates, Captain Morgan, my rubbing alcohol, and shaving cream. And we got that fire lit, but the steaks didn't taste good. Wasn't a hair on them, though, I can tell you that. While she's talking, I think I stopped her and I said, do you want to go get a drink? And she liked, she was a little sorority girl. She liked parties and stuff like that. And she said, sure, we'll go get a drink, but you don't drink. I grew up Southern Baptist. I actually grew up in this church. That's kind of cool to think about. I grew up my whole life in here, and this group's been here for 14 years, 15 years? Something like that. Give me a nod, something. Yeah. And maybe more, I don't know. And I wasn't here when that happened. But that's something, 17? Yeah, thanks. About 17 years. So, I mean, I was here growing up. I was a kid. And this group was meeting here. And people that are in this room were here. And little did I know, or they know, what would happen in the future. But that's just cool to me to think about. But grew up Southern Baptist, and if you're Southern Baptist, you can drink, you just don't talk about it ever. So I didn't know anything about drinking, was pretty much a teetotaler, if you couldn't guess by my relationship with my roommate. And So she said, okay, we'll go get something to drink. Do you want to go to the bar or the liquor store? And I said, I hate people, so we're not going to the bar. Let's go to the liquor store. And we went to the liquor store, and she just turned me loose in there and said, pick out whatever you want, and I'll buy it for you for your birthday. And again, I have no idea what anything is. I mean, I've never drank before in my life, but the only bottle in there that I recognized was a bottle of Red Label Smirnoff, that cylinder, you know. It was the only reason I recognized it was because that was what James Bond drank, and I love James Bond. And so that's what we got. We took that back to my dorm, and my two roommates drank a shot for my birthday, and she drank a little bit. She was a tiny thing, so it didn't take much to get her drunk. And I drank the rest of that bottle. And that was about the extent of my social drinking. I socially drank for a while, about 15 minutes. That was about the time it took for it to hit the back of my throat, go down to my stomach, and then make it to my head. And the instant that liquid hit the back of my throat, it was like nothing I'd ever felt before. I was warm from the top of my head to the bottom of my feet. And within 15 minutes, I didn't care about anything else on this earth except for how good I felt at that exact moment, and how much fun I was having with the people I was with, and how much I loved, loved life, which was not a feeling that I ever felt up until that point. And all that fear and that anxiety and that regret that I always felt that was there since as far back as I can remember melted away. I wasn't worried about the test I was about to take. I wasn't worried about the test I just failed. I didn't care about any of that. And I didn't black out. Nothing bad happened. I giggled a little bit, and they got me to drink some water and I think eat some toast. And I woke up the next day, and I didn't have a hangover. I didn't do anything stupid. Nobody came up to me and said, "Do you know what you did last night?" But what I did feel was I felt that anxiety creeping back in, and I felt that regret and that remorse and that I always felt. And I finally knew what would fix it. I finally knew that a drink would fix it. I thought that I had found what everybody else felt like all the time. I felt like I'd found the solution to all my problems. And when drinking came on the scene, the pills, everything else was out the door. It didn't matter anymore. I didn't care about that stuff. As long as I had liquor, that was all I cared about. And I went back to the liquor store and got 2 more bottles of Smirnoff, and I'm a creature of habit. And I didn't buy the handle or the bigger bottle. I just bought 2 of the smaller ones that we already had. It was a lot more expensive that way, but I don't know why. That was what I drank the first time, so that's what I kept drinking. And I drank them both by myself that night. And that was pretty much how it was from that point until I stopped drinking. I mean, I drank every chance I got, as much as I could get. About the only semblance of control I ever had was if I knew there wasn't enough to keep me drunk, to get me drunk and keep me drunk, I didn't start until I knew that there was something out there to get. That was the only semblance of control I ever had in my drinking. Because once I took that first drink, I didn't stop until there was none left. And, I started off just trying to drink only maybe on the weekends, and then it's like, as long as you drink on the weekends, you're not an alcoholic, that's perfectly fine. But then it's like, well, Mondays suck, so I might as well start drinking on Mondays. And then it's like, well, Thursdays, who likes Thursdays? Friday's a wash anyway, so might as well drink on Friday. And then it's like Wednesday's middle of the week. And then it's like, well, as long as you don't drink before 5, you're okay, you're not an alcoholic. And then it's like, well, I get out of class at 3, so before 3, I'm good. And then it's like, I don't care. If I wanted to drink, I was going to drink. I didn't have to have an excuse anymore. I was going to drink because I wanted to, and I felt like that I was justified in it, that my pain was so much greater than everybody else's pain, that if you could feel the way I felt, you would drink the way I drank. You would want the relief that I felt from alcohol. And I couldn't understand why the people around me were starting to get a little agitated, why they were starting to get offended when I was drunk at 12 in the afternoon on a Tuesday, and I've got class to go to. And they started getting offended when, they can't bring their girlfriends over because they don't know what I'm going to do. My roommates didn't know what I was going to do, and it got to the point where if they walked in and smelled liquor, they just turned around and walked right back out. And that's not fair to them. They paid their money just like they paid their money just like my parents did to stay there, and I kept them from that. And a lot of humiliating things happened. Waking up and not really blacking out, but just not having clothes on was a common theme. I don't know why that was, but that was just the way it was. And it never seemed like that was when I was alone. It always seemed like there was always a crowd drawn whenever that happened. I don't know if the crowd was there when I started or if it accumulated after the fact, but it was there. And that stuff was embarrassing, and it was like, oh, God, I'm never going to do that again. But, a day or two later, back to drinking again, just like I was. I don't know when the point I realized maybe I drank a little bit too much. Maybe I should slow down or cut back a little bit. But the first time I tried to cut back was the first time I blacked out. I stopped drinking for maybe a week, and then, any good alcoholic, if you celebrate sobriety with a drink. So that's what I did. And I blacked out for the first time. Woke up the next day and had no idea what had happened. And everybody else knew what happened, and they weren't happy. And, there was a lot of stuff that was broken, a lot of other people's stuff. I was more upset about my stuff being broken. A lot of expensive stuff. And I don't know what it is, but whenever I started drinking and blacking out, I automatically went for the most expensive thing I could find and put it in my mouth and just destroyed it. Cell phones, video games, CDs, MP3 players. I don't know why. If it was expensive and it was in my reach, when I woke up the next morning, it was going to have teeth mark all over it. And I lost many a cell phone that way. Those of you who knew me when I had my flip phone, that was why I had my flip phone, was because I destroyed 3 perfectly good non-flip phones to get to that phone. It cost me $10. The other ones each cost $60. They lasted me a grand total of maybe 3 months. The $10 flip phone lasted me almost 3 years. It's amazing what sobriety can do for you. But the blacking out just started every time I drank. And, I didn't drink for social reasons. I didn't drink to fit in, to make it easier to talk to women. I didn't care about women. If I had liquor, who cared about women? I can be alone and be miserable. I don't need somebody else to help me do that. But every time I drank, it got to the point where I blacked out every single time. And all I wanted was that sense of ease and comfort. All I wanted was some of that relief that I felt that first time I drank. And I never got it like I did that first night. It was like every single time I drank after that, it was a little bit less and a little bit less and a little bit less until I didn't get any relief at all. And, starting to black out and waking up after the blackouts, I was worse off than when I started drinking. People were mad at me, and I didn't know why stuff was broken. And I didn't know, I knew why it was broken. I just didn't know, what specifically happened. I started blacking out and waking up in the ER, not knowing how I got there, and started waking up in the ER handcuffed and not knowing how I got there. Started waking up in the ER handcuffed with blood on me. I was telling a guy just before this meeting that, my parents paid for all those ER visits and all those hospital rides, those ambulance rides and all that stuff, and they never once complained about it. They never once said anything really about it. They just paid it because they loved me and they wanted to take care of me, and they just didn't know what to do. And I felt terrible about it. I can assure you that. I felt terrible about it, but there wasn't a thing I could do to stop. I thought that maybe if my roommate would stop calling 911 on me whenever I got blackout drunk, that we wouldn't have this problem. And they tend to frown upon it when you kick in your roommate's door and don't leave when they ask you to leave. And I should have been arrested countless times. But it always seemed like every single time the police showed up, there was always something wrong. I was slow heart rate this time, fast heart rate the next time. Blood pressure was high. I was anemic. It didn't matter. I mean, they didn't want to arrest me and then get me to the jail, and then I pass out and they got to take me to the ER anyway. So they would always take me to the ER first, and then they never wanted to wait around for me. But I should have been arrested plenty of times for all sorts of things. But the last time, I guess, that I drank was it was not really any more eventful than any other time. I drank with the intention of only drinking this much, with getting some kind of relief. And I ended up drinking the entire bottle, got no relief, and once again wound up in the ER, handcuffed to the hospital bed, and not knowing how I got there, but just being angry at everybody but myself. And, the cops, unfortunately, were still there. And they told me kind of what happened. I'd gotten drunk and kicked in my roommate's door, and he was a new roommate and didn't understand the protocol of, you should be understanding when your roommate gets drunk and kicks in your door. And thank God, I say that in jest, he was truly understanding. I mean, this guy didn't know me from Adam, and all of a sudden this guy comes beating on his door, kicks his door in, stinking to high heaven about of liquor, and And all he said was, this is my room, you need to leave. I didn't, so he just left and called 911. It could have easily gone a completely different way. And he handled it. I don't know I guess I know why. He wasn't insane like I was. But I ended up going home, and the school called me the next day and let me know that I was no longer welcome on campus. I had 11 hours to my degree, and I would have been done, graduated, would have been gone, and never had to set foot in that place ever again. Well, I say that I was failing everything, so I probably wouldn't have graduated. But I had 11 hours to go, and was back at home living with my parents. They seemed to call me in waves. The school called and said, "Don't come back," or the psychiatrist at the school called and said, "Don't come back until we decide." Then a week later, they called and said, "Don't come back at all." And then a week later, the cops called on my birthday and said, "You can come back, but only for your court date." So that was fun. Got served with the papers on my birthday. He showed up, and he knew that. He did that on purpose. He waited 2 weeks for my birthday. That was another thing. If the cops would just leave me alone, if they'd stop pulling me over all the time when I'm driving drunk, they just can't seem to leave me alone. I haven't been pulled. Well, I've been pulled once, and I was speeding like crazy since I've gotten sober. But I got pulled twice a week when I was drinking. It's crazy how that works. But at this point, I'm 22 years old. I drank for a grand total of 350 some days. Was all my drinking career. But in that amount of time, I went from being, kind of okay, somewhat functioning member of society to, I was hearing voices, seeing things. I had completely lost touch with reality. My mind was completely gone. And you want to talk about being powerless and my life being unmanageable. I failed at every single thing that I did. Every single time I tried something, I tried it my way. I tried to do it my way. I tried as hard as I could, put everything I could into it, and I always failed. Never wanted to ask for help, never wanted to pray, never wanted to do any of that stuff. But wondered why my life was a pile of crap, and wondered why everybody hated me, and wondered why nobody wanted to talk to me or be around me. And so at 22 years old, I'm kicked out of school, living at home with my family, living in the room that I grew up in with my 10-year-old little brother. And girlfriend's gone, and I hate life. I absolutely hate life. And I hate everybody around me, but I didn't drink. That was actually my last drink, was that incident, which was August 29th of 2011. Unfortunately, that wasn't my sobriety date, as Steve mentioned earlier. But for the next few months, I just kind of existed. My parents required that I go to AA meetings, so I went to the parking lot and slept in the parking lot for an hour and then went home. And that didn't help. And they figured that one out one day when I forgot what time the meeting ended and came home 45 minutes early. I wasn't very bright. So I just kind of stopped going. I came to meetings every so often, and when I was in here, God, I hated all of you. I hated everybody in the world, but nobody did I hate more than myself, and I wanted everybody around me to be as miserable as I was. I was plotting ways to spike the punch bowl or the coffee bowl one day and make everybody drunk just like me, because I couldn't stop drinking. No matter what I did, I could not stop. I don't really know if I wanted help. I know I needed help. But I wouldn't have known what help was if it had walked up to me and punched me in the face. It probably needed to. I needed an attitude adjustment. Because I think Gordon said it. He was the only guy that could lay flat on his back and still look down his nose at you. I can assure you he was not the only one that could do that. I was an expert at that. Because I had nothing going for me, but if you asked me, I had all the answers. And if you ask me 2 years from now, I'll probably say I thought I had all the answers now, too. I just kind of existed for the next couple of months, and didn't drink, but marijuana came on the scene, the pills came back, and just doing the same thing I was doing before I started drinking, just waking up in the morning to uppers, going through the day as best I could, but I had marijuana now, so if I got too jittery, try to use that, but it never did anything but make me paranoid. But me being the idiot I am, thinking maybe the next time it won't make me paranoid. And it never didn't make me paranoid. And I'm at work like freaking out, like just I'm by myself at night, working at a grocery store and just, out of my mind. And stole a lot of stuff from work too during that time, and was able to make amends for that later. But by the time December rolled around, I was done. I was so broken and so sick and sore and tired. I just didn't know what to do anymore. And but I wasn't quite ready to give up yet. I still thought that maybe there was something I could do, and I don't know why I did this. It's I mention this every time I speak because I think it's an important part of my story. But I decided a long time ago that if I couldn't live the way I wanted, I was going to die the way I wanted. And at that point, I decided I couldn't live anymore the way I wanted. I couldn't live not drinking, but if I drank again, I knew I was going to die. So I figured might as well just cut out the middleman and just take my own life. And I made several attempts in my life up until that point: slit wrists, the overdoses, driving crazy, spinning cars out. And I don't know how much those were attention getting and how much those were actual attempts in my life. But on December 28th, I had every intention of dying, whether or not what I did was going to kill me or not. I had every intention of dying. And took everything in the house I thought might kill me. Chuck likes to pick on me because I'm a chemistry major and I couldn't even poison myself. But it's funny now. I can promise you it wasn't funny at the time. But I made that decision. I was going to take my own life. And I went home, and I was actually going to IOP at the time over at the hospital, which is treatment light. You go there in the morning to get treatment, and then you go get drunk in the afternoon, and then go back the next day. I kid. It's a good program. A lot of people get a lot out of it if you actually do the work, which was not something I was good at. I think I called my ex-girlfriend that day, trying one more thing, just trying to patch something else up, just trying to have a little bit of control, and that didn't work. She saw through that, and she was like, "No, we're done." And I just went home, middle of the afternoon on a Thursday, I think it was, and just offered myself. My dad's like cleaning the bathroom in the next room, and I swallow all these pills and lay down with every intention of not waking up ever again. And I woke up, I guess around midnight that night, and went into the bathroom to get a drink of water and just hit the floor and don't really remember anything after that. My brother found me. My little brother found me. He was 19 at the time. And that's not really something a younger brother should ever have to come, shouldn't have to wake up to that, shouldn't have to come and find your big brother dying on the floor, seizing on the floor. And that girl that I drank with the first time, she walked in on me one day while I was trying to kill myself. She called me up and said, "Let's go out to eat again." It was a recurring theme. And I had just swallowed every pill I owned and just acted like nothing happened. And about 15 minutes later, I hit the floor, and right there in front of her, and she lost it, as you can understand. But I'm so self-centered at this point, I don't care. And I wake up in the detox unit up at Moore Regional Hospital 3 days later, and the ball's dropping for New Year's Eve, and I don't remember the last 3 days, and it's a new year, it's 2012, and here I am in detox one more time. But the difference was this time is I knew that I was done. I knew that there was nothing else I could do, that everything I'd ever tried to try to control my life, to try to change the way I felt, to try to change anything about myself, had failed miserably. And I did not know what to do anymore. I had no clue what to do. And if somebody had walked up to me and told me that if I went outside and killed a goat right now, I'd be happy, I probably would have done it. I mean, I had no clue what to do anymore. And I had gotten a sponsor and never used him, a guy that I had actually met up in detox. And when I got out of detox, I called him up and let him know what was going on. He was real appreciative. He was like, how would it have looked if I'd gone back to the home group and told him that my sponsee killed himself on my watch? I told that one time, and said, he was joking, of course. And then I told him that, and he's like, I wasn't joking, I was dead serious. It wasn't funny at the time either. But the difference was is I came into this program after that, and I actually started doing the suggestions that were offered to me. And one of my favorite lines, one of my favorite quotes, I don't even know who says it. I guess I've said it 3 times from behind the pulpit, so I said it now. Understanding is not required for compliance. I didn't understand a thing that I was doing. When we read that book, or when he read it to me, I could read the same sentence 100 times, and I could still not tell you what it said, let alone what it meant. But he sat down, and he never asked me, did I want to read it? Did he want me to read it to him or anything like that? He just started reading it. And I just did what I was told. If it said pray, we prayed. If it said write something, we wrote something. If it said we got on our knees, if we said we did anything, that's what we did. And I didn't really understand what we were doing. I didn't have this grand scheme of I would do all this stuff. I would do this stuff in this book, and I wouldn't drink for the rest of my life. I can assure you that was the farthest thing from my mind. Not drinking for the rest of my life did not sound fun. And life at that point was not fun. But I did it anyway. And eventually my motives changed. And I don't know at what point my motives changed, where I stopped just doing the actions because I was told to do it and doing them because I wanted to. But I just realized one day that I woke up and I hadn't thought about drinking in an awfully long time. And when I did think about drinking, I didn't feel like I had to go get a drink at that exact moment. And that was pretty amazing. And, a real strong turning point in my life was when I was up in that detox, and that guy that eventually sponsored me, he talked about his life, and he went up there and he was talking about alcoholism. And everybody that had ever talked to me about alcoholism before that point had talked to me about what I should do and what I ought to do. I need to go home, I don't need to drink so much. I need to drink beer, not liquor. I need to do this and I need to do that. Things I'd already thought of, I assure you of that. And they had all failed. He just talked about his own alcoholism. He never talked about me. And he talked about himself and how bad his life was and how miserable he was. And the amazing thing was that I believed him when he talked about it. And I'd never believed anything anybody had ever told me before. And I hated it when people said they knew how I felt. Nobody knew how I felt. If you knew how I felt, you'd drink the way I drank. And this guy he didn't tell me he knew the way I felt. He just told how he felt, and it was exactly how I felt. And that was a new thing for me. And then he talked about how his life was different and how his life was better. He didn't live that way anymore, and how he was at peace. And I guess the second miracle of that day was that I believed him when he told me that stuff. And I believed that maybe if it could work for a guy like that, maybe it could work for a guy like me. And that was kind of the foundation that I had. And I came back to the meeting that he came from, and I was in the newcomers meeting, and I asked the guy that was leading the newcomers meeting to sponsor. It was actually Brad. I asked Brad to sponsor me, and he's like, I can't sponsor you, but I know somebody who can. And he went and got that same guy from Detox that night. And it was a love story, a match made in heaven. After a couple of months, after I got over the fact that you couldn't smoke weed anymore. When I came in the program for the first time, I didn't want to be here, at all. I wanted to be anywhere else. I'd leave meetings early. I was really upset when they started closing the liquor store over here in Southern Pines early. It used to close at 8, and then they started closing it at 7:30. Some of you guys with more than 3 years of sobriety may not know about that. But I left the meeting early one night, and it was already closed. Thought maybe as much business as I gave them, they should have let me know that beforehand. But I left meetings. I came to meetings drunk. I left meetings early to go get drunk. I did all that stuff and drove drunk all the time and hurt the people I loved and all that stuff is I guess well and good as far as alcoholism goes, but it doesn't make me an alcoholic. What makes me an alcoholic is the feelings that alcohol gives me, the feelings that I can't shake ever, that alcohol offered some relief for, and then finally turned on me, and I didn't get any relief anymore. And AA has offered me the relief that I sought so long in alcohol. I took that first step, and that's probably the only step I've ever done perfect. I know it's the only step I've ever done perfect. I mess up all the time. I can assure you of that. But the one thing I haven't done is I haven't tried to take back my will. I haven't taken back that will and taken a drink since I came in. And that's not anything I could do for myself. It's something that God's been able to do for me and through me. When we got to that second step and talked about, came to believe that the power greater than myself was restoring me to sanity. I didn't. I grew up in the church, and I didn't really think that God and prayer was something that worked when I came in. I thought that God was somebody like Santa Claus. You asked for stuff and you didn't get it, and I thought that maybe some people believed in that stuff, but I didn't believe in it. And it wasn't that I didn't believe in God. I just didn't think that God would help somebody that was as worthless and as cruel and as mean as I was. And there's a store that I pass on the way to school every day, and it says everybody needs a little mercy. And I like that because I can assure you I didn't deserve anything when I came in here, but I needed a lot of mercy. And thank God I didn't get what I deserved, because if I got what I deserved, I would not be standing here. But I understood that there had to be something out there bigger than me, because if there wasn't anything bigger than me, then I was absolutely doomed. Because I knew I had no power over alcohol, and if there was nothing more powerful than me, then alcohol was the only thing that was more powerful. So those two steps, the second and third step, they came pretty naturally, I guess, at that point. And it took me a while to realize, kind of what that higher power was for me. For a long time, it was just kind of the group itself and just kind of existing. There was a lot of people in this room that were a lot happier and a lot more sober than I was at that time. And it was just easier to listen to them and just kind of take whatever direction they offered. And I did that for a long time before I actually prayed and really meant what I prayed. And, I think the first honest prayer I ever said was God, please help me sleep. And I slept. And that was amazing, because I had never prayed for anything and felt like I got it answered. But that was the first time that it had ever happened, and it was actually in detox. And it was pretty amazing. And now I know, I told some guys this last night, you would be amazed, or maybe you wouldn't be amazed, how many times a day I say, God, please save me from being angry. It comes up pretty often. And when I say that prayer, when I say any prayer, when I say it now, I know that when I say it, it's going to come true. It's going to happen. It's not just some wish I'm throwing up to Santa Claus. It's not just something I'm saying. I know that it's going to happen. I say it because I know it's going to happen. And I feel relief from it. And that's amazing to me, that a guy like me that's done the things I've done and been the places I've been, that I have a direct line with the power greater than myself that can keep me sober a day at a time. And all that's required of me is that I just maintain in constant contact with Him and clean house. That's what the book tells me, trusting God and clean house. And that's what I try to do. Carrying on with the rest of the steps, I don't know that there's any one step that keeps people sober or kept me sober, but I'll tell you, the fourth and fifth step will do until it got there. There was a lot of stuff, like most of us, that probably I would have taken to my grave, and I would have lied to God if He had asked me about it. A lot of embarrassing stuff. Obviously, things of a sexual nature tend to be the worst for whatever reason, but those things ate me alive, and I felt like I could remember every single little thing I'd ever done, and there was no way I was going to be able to tell somebody else about it. I wasn't worried he was going to tell somebody. I just didn't want him to know. I mean, good Lord, felt like I was a terrible person. But I did that stuff, and it wasn't comfortable, and it wasn't easy. And like when you get really hot and there's a cold table and you got your arms on it, when you pick them up, there's that like steam imprint around it. When I got up, there was like a puddle around it of like sweat. Like I didn't move the whole time. I was so scared and so nervous. But I got through it, and I did it. And he got to the end, and he says, "Is there anything else?" Of course there's something else. There's always something else. And I got that stuff off too. And I didn't understand how heavy that burden was that I was carrying on my life, how much that stuff weighed, until I got it off my back and off my chest. And when that stuff was gone, I felt like I could breathe again for the first time. And those things, I don't have to ever bring them up again. That's it's pretty amazing, because a lot of that stuff haunted me for years. And it was part of the causes and conditions of my disease, and a lot of that inferiority that I felt all the time was because of that stuff. And then the amends came, and an ongoing process. And I just wanted to talk about a couple of them that are pretty pertinent in my life. My parents, I mentioned them before, used and abused them at every turn that I possibly could, and took advantage of them, emotionally, monetarily, and all they ever did was take care of me. But they had other kids to take care of too, and there was a point where they did draw that line. One time I tried to kill myself, and my parents found the bottles, and my dad just said, "Pack up his stuff, he's out," and then I passed back out again. So that nixed that. I was kind of heavy at that point. They want to lug me out, I guess. But that was probably the only time I ever remember my parents. I felt like I'd maybe reached a limit where I'd crossed a line with them. But when I got sober, I realized that I had crossed the line so many times before that. Getting drunk and fighting with my father, that's something that I did and I'm not proud of. And, physically assaulting my father. And my mom and my grandparents just standing there crying, not knowing what to do. And that was something that I was able to make amends to them for. And I felt like I went to them a dozen times and was just like, I'm so sorry. I didn't know how to make an amends. And I still live with them at the time and now. But they always said, it's fine. We're just glad you're doing better. We're just glad you're doing better. And for Christmas, I got them 2 appliances that they really wanted, that they needed. They really needed. I didn't break them, I promise. The ones before it. That was probably the only thing I didn't break them down. But I gave them a card and just wrote out this long thing to them. And it felt really good to see them open those gifts and see, that I gave them back something that I wasn't taking from them all the time, and to see them read that card and just like the tears well up in their eyes and see, at that point I was a year sober, and I gave them my year chip, and it was amazing. And then my dad came up to me afterwards and he says, "You don't ever have to apologize ever again. What you've done is enough." And I still make a daily amends to them, by being a better son to them and being the son that they deserve the whole time, and trying not to take advantage of them and trying to help them out monetarily, and not just abuse them. And the money that I gave them was able to pay off all those medical bills that were piled up and all that stuff. So, and I didn't even realize they were using it for that. I told them to use it for themselves, and they were saving it the whole time and used it to pay off all those bills that were technically in their name, but they were mine. Another amends that I made was to that ex that I used for years. I went and made that amends, and I think I did every single thing wrong that you could possibly do wrong, except for go drunk. It was probably the only thing I didn't do wrong. And I went in there with the intention of trying to impress her and trying to do all this stuff and trying to woo her, or I don't even know. I was stupid. But she didn't care about any of that. And I was really shocked. I was like, "You don't care that I've been sober 2 years or that I do all this stuff?" And she's like, "No, I'm just glad you're sober. I don't really care about the other stuff." She was more impressed with the fact that I didn't show up drunk than anything else. And the reason was because she had heard sorry for me 1,000 times. My actions spoke louder by showing up and looking good and smelling good and not slurring my speech and not abusing her like I always did. And then the most recent amends that I've made is to my boss, or to my job. I was placed in the position where I had a lot of responsibility on me, a lot of trust put on me, and I abused it. They weren't watching me, and that was their mistake, I guess. I stole a lot of stuff. And there was no way I was ever going to be caught. I knew that I was not going to get caught. But it kept weighing on me. It kept eating at me. And I kept thinking about it. Every time I saw my boss or he would say something to me, I'd think about, all that stuff that I'd stolen and I really didn't realize how much it was eating me alive until I got it off my chest. And, I prayed about it for a long time, praying that it wasn't the right action to take, to go and talk to him and talk with my sponsor and talk with other guys. And as the book says, the action was indicated, so I took it. And I went up to him and wanted to make an appointment to go meet with him. And he's like, "Just come on in and talk right now." I was like, "Oh, God, I'd much rather do it later so I can cancel." So I came in and sat down, and I had an envelope with a sum of money in it, and I had no idea what I stole or how much I stole. But that amount in that envelope was what was weighing on my heart as far as what to give back. And I told him flat out, I'm an alcoholic, and for the last 2 years I've been in Alcoholics Anonymous, and I've been trying to get my life together, and have found sobriety and have been graced with sobriety. And part of that is making amends. And I'm afraid that if I don't make this amends and make this right, if I don't give back what doesn't belong to me, then it could cause me to drink again. And I was dead serious with him about it, and he understood that. And he took that money, and they donated the money in the store's name to a charity. And that's fine. The money just wasn't mine. It couldn't stay in my hands. It had to go to somebody else. It had to go to the person that it belonged to. And I just didn't realize how much that hurt, how much that was keeping me back until I let it go. And when I walked out of that room, I felt like I could walk on air. It was absolutely amazing. Just carrying on, about doing service work, just in closing. I've been able to do a lot in service work, go into detox. It was done for me that guys came to detox and carried a meeting up there, so that's what I do. And going down to the colony, I didn't go through treatment. I assure you I qualified, but that was not something I was going to do. I was not going to go to the middle of nowhere for 28 days. I didn't think the world couldn't get along without me like Dave. That's what he thinks. I knew I couldn't get along without the world for 28 days. I go down there because there's guys down there that need help, and AA was always there for me, always there. Every time I reached out for help, it was always there. And so I try to make it there for the next guy that comes in. And I sponsor guys, and the guys that I've sponsored have had some success themselves, stayed sober, and I can assure you that has nothing to do with me. Because if they had listened to everything I said, they'd probably be drunk. If they depended on me wholeheartedly. I believe that any guy that sponsored them, they would have stayed sober. But it's been amazing in my life to look back and see these guys, see them come in and see how they grow and see how they change and see the program work for them. And, been able to do a lot with the intergroup and with the website. And it's something that I enjoy, and it's a way that I try to give back to the program. And, it's taken up a lot of time, and it takes a lot of energy at times. But again, it's something I enjoy, and it's part of my contribution. And if I know that if I'm grateful for something, I need to do something for it to try to keep it going. And Steve says, if you want to see how grateful I am, look at two places: my checkbook and my calendar. And that's what I try to do. I try to give my money and my time back to AA because I'm grateful for it. Because everything I have in my life now is because of AA and because of a power greater than myself and the men and women that have come before me and tried to help me along this thing. And, I hope that clock's right because y'all are looking bored. I keep looking at that clock. So that's pretty much all I got. And, Dave, good work on 17 years. Yeah, good work. And glad to be here and glad y'all are here. Glad to see y'all. So thank you.
Thank you.